The pre-sale for badges to the Rose City Comic Con is underway. It's coming to the Oregon Convention Center September 6th through 8th, and this year's lineup is stacked. Hayden Christensen, aka Anakin Skywalker, will be there, so will Rosario Dawson from movies like Death Proof, Sin City, and Men in Black 2, and Simon Pegg from Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. Oh, and they just added Nick Frost. That's right, freaking Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. Plus a ton of cast members from your favorite shows and movies, along with your favorite comic book artists, authors, and so much, much more. Go buy your badges now at rosecitycomiccon.com. Last month, we talked about a local psilocybin treatment center causing some waves for planning to offer what are considered to be therapeutic and guided psychedelic experiences as corporate events or fun, curated Halloween parties. And since 2020, when Oregon became the first state in the US to legalize psilocybin use within a therapeutic framework, nearly 300 licensed facilitators have set up shop across the state. But what does treatment look like? How much does it cost? And is it really worth it? So today on CityCast Portland, we're revisiting a conversation I had with Courtney Campbell, facilitator and founder of Chariot, a Portland-based psilocybin service center. Courtney answered all of our questions concerning this still relatively new type of therapy and gave us a step-by-step guide of what to expect. It's Wednesday, September 4th. I'm Claudia Mesa, and this is what Portland's talking about. I read that psilocybin therapy was kind of a hard pivot for you. You were a filmmaker, right?
I was, yeah.
What made you want to open your own facility?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was my own experience with psilocybin, my own healing journey, that I've kind of always struggled with anxiety and depression for as long as I can remember, really, as well as some substance use problems. But in 2020 is when I kind of began the process of getting off of an antidepressant that I'd been on for many years, and went to a retreat in Jamaica, where they do kind of high dose psilocybin sessions with a group. And kind of after that experience, I mean, it was very transformative for me and kind of launched me on this current path of working with psilocybin as a tool to alleviate many sorts of mental health sort of issues. And living in Oregon, being an Oregonian, when I heard about Measure 109, I was very excited. And for folks that I knew would come here, and yes, was curious and interested in what role I could play in the emerging kind of psilocybin therapy world.
So you spoke about your own anxiety and depression, those being some symptoms that the psilocybin therapy have helped you overcome. Is that a safe or like a truthful statement, like it's helped you overcome them? Or is that like in tandem with other things? Like, let's say I have anxiety. I'm like, let's pretend like I definitely in a world where I might also have depression and anxiety. Would I just go through one session and then I'm like cured? Or like, I don't understand how that would work.
I can speak to sort of my own personal experience and, anecdotally also what I've, seen over the last year. But for me, it's not a silver bullet, right? Nothing is. It'd be wonderful if we could, heal ourselves of all these problems with just sort of one session, one day. The reality is that it's, it takes a lot of different work, and work that, whether that's being in therapy, meditating, all sorts of, sort of supportive components that help, I think, assist the process. But I think what psilocybin really can allow you to do is let go of the stories, the thought patterns, whatever sort of trauma, I guess, is the root of these symptoms that are manifesting. It can allow you to move beyond and accept that whatever happened in a way that's very healthy. And psilocybin allows us to let go of those things that are no longer serving us.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically therapy. Like, that's what therapy is supposed to do, is you talk through all of your bad habits, right?
Right. And I can say that as someone who has been in years of therapy, I understood what the therapist was telling me and why, this or that may have been the cause of my depression or anxiety. And yet it was still hard for me to move forward from it in a way that that felt like I was getting any sort of real relief.
Right. Well, Aside from anxiety and depression, like what kinds of people do you think would benefit most from psilocybin treatment?
So research and our kind of experience is showing that the most significant benefit is for those like me who've struggled with anxiety, depression, substance use, but also folks with OCD, people who are dealing with a terminal diagnosis or have a family member or loved one or friend who has passed and are in a sort of a stuck grief process, unable to move on. PTSD, there's a lot of research showing that it's very helpful for folks, combat vets in particular. And really, any sort of trauma, you're likely to experience benefit from working with psilocybin.
These are all therapies that are guided in a way, right? Like, can you walk me through what it would be like to go through a psilocybin therapy? I'm sure a lot of people are listening. They're just like, I can take shrooms at home. And I'm sure a lot of people have, and they still feel all the things that they've felt before, right? So, like, what's so different about, taking mushrooms at home and taking them, let's say, at your office?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that I tried to do this at home without a facilitator. Like I think like a lot of people have. And I think probably like a lot of listeners, the benefits maybe didn't come. And so there's something about working with a licensed facilitator that allows you to surrender, go deep into the psilocybin experience in a way that is challenging without that person around. For people that have never worked with psychedelics, it's extremely important because this is a brand new experience that can feel often, very foreign and it's a new space to explore.
Can you walk me through what it would be like to go through a psilocybin therapy with you?
Yeah. So the initial sort of contact with us is you would schedule a free consult with a member of our team who would explain the process to you like I'm doing right now, and get to know you and why you're interested in receiving psilocybin services. We would then send you a brief sort of intake form that you'd fill out, and we would use that plus the conversation we just had to connect you with a facilitator. Mm-hmm. Most facilitators kind of have a specialty area that they work on, but we would schedule a meeting where you guys would get to know each other and see if you're a good fit because that relationship is really important to the outcome.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If you guys decided you were a good fit, you'd have your prep session with a facilitator where it's like a big therapy session where you kind of tell them your life story. They, explain to you sort of what to expect, how to prepare. And then on the day of the session, you would show up at Chariot. Your dosage would already be determined kind of between you and your facilitator. And you'd come in, make a tea, drink the tea, and then lay in one of our rooms, get comfortable. And we have speakers in each room. We have headphones if you'd rather do that. But you would basically just have the room to have your journey and with your facilitator. Are
they talking you through it or are they just watching you?
Neither. I mean, they're there to do both if you want them to. It's a non-directive model. So you're not actually, the goal is to not engage in talk therapy during the session. The goal is for you to go inward and have your own experience. And
are they in the same room with you then?
They're in the same room with you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. They have this really amazing skill to be there when you need them to be and also not be there when you don't. So it's not like someone just creepily sitting next to you, watching you while you're having this experience. Yet if you are having a hard time, they're there to support you.
And how long is that session?
6 hours. There's minimum duration times that are the required lengths of stay, basically. So at the highest dose, you're required to be there for 6 hours. Some people need longer, which is fine. And like we're happy to stay there. And it's a very sort of unpredictable schedule. You don't know when your days are going to end. But yeah, some people are there for 4 hours. Others are there for 8. Yeah, everyone's different for sure. But, and then you'll go home. You'll have a transportation plan that does not include you driving. And then the next day or a week later or sort of whatever you schedule with your facilitator, you'll have an integration session where you'll talk about everything that came up and process all the things, the feelings, the experience, and talk about sort of ways to maybe make changes to your daily life. And that's sort of like the 3-part system.
Would you say that what you explained to me, that's just usual? That's what happens in all of these facilities? Or is that specific to you and to Chariot?
That's like generally the OHA model that most service centers follow. I mean, that's the three-step sort of process is the prep, the session, and then the integration. And we also do have group sessions, which are another way to lower cost. So it's a group of people together journeying and fewer facilitators, which help bring down costs, which could be a very powerful experience. We try to encourage it, but people are leaning into the one-on-ones.
I could see why. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I can see why too.
Courtney, have you ever had a family do it? Like, because I'm just imagining an entire family. Has that ever happened?
We haven't had a whole family. We've had a number of couples. We've had a mother-daughter, a father-daughter, a sibling, but not the whole crew yet. But those are some of the best, most powerful days. It's cool.
I would imagine, especially for trying to repair relationships or whatever, this is an interesting option. You know what you should do is you should run family specials. Like kids get in free, kids eat for free.
That's a good idea.
Kids trip for free. Courtney.
Kids trip for free.
Kids trip for free.
I like it. That are 21 and older.
Oh, of course.
Yes, those kids.
All right, well, let's take a quick break here. And when we come back, Courtney is going to tell us some of the positive benefits that he's seen in patients after therapy. Making the right senior living choice is more than just a simple move for your parents. These are long-term care plans. You need solid information and the right person to walk you through each step of the decision-making process. And Lynn Smarges is that person. She's a trusted senior advisor and placement specialist that works tirelessly to ensure your loved ones find the best care tailored to their specific needs and preferences. From independent living and assisted living to memory care, Lynn guides you every step of the way, offering advice, valuable resources, and unwavering support. She researches the retirement communities which best fits your senior family member's circumstances. Not only that, she sets up the appointments to tour these communities and walks her families through each tour, advocating for them. You can rely on Lynn to offer your family the care and compassion you need during your senior living journey, because sometimes you just need that extra hand. You can also find out more about everything Lynn has to offer by tuning into her podcast, Caring for Your Aging Parents, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any of your favorite listening platforms.
Hi, this is David, the CEO of CityCast. Do you ever find yourself holding back on travel because you're afraid of a language gap? Well, mind the gap no longer, as long as you have Babbel. Babbel is the science-backed language learning app. Its 10 minutes lessons are quick and handcrafted to get you talking your new language in 3 weeks. So I was reminded in the Olympics how much I love French. I had spoken French as a kid, but it has deteriorated to nothing. But I thought I would love to take a trip back to France with my girlfriend, but I'm embarrassed because my French is at 0. And I thought, why don't I get on Babbel and revive my French? And it's been a joy for the past few weeks. I'd forgotten everything. I'd forgotten plurals. I'd forgotten articles, vocabulary. Mostly I'd just forgotten how to speak and how to listen. And Babbel has me back on track with lots of speaking and lots of listening, because that's how you get better at a language. So I've been working on time, for example. And there's this way in French where when you say 2:45, you don't say 2:45, you say 3 o'clock minus 15. So, je rentre à 3h moins le quart. I'm coming back at 2:45. Anyway, it's so much fun to speak. And don't take my word for it. There's studies from Yale, from Michigan State University that prove that Babbel works. So here's a special limited time deal for CityCast listeners. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/citycast. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/citycast. Spelled BABBEL.com/citycast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
What kinds of results have you witnessed?
Yeah, I mean, seeing the impact is, kind of the best part of my job. It's so wonderful to be around so much healing that has happened at our center. We had a client who was featured in an NPR story a couple months ago. She's a domestic violence survivor experiencing PTSD, panic attacks, kind of tried everything, talk therapy, EMDR, meditation, and nothing had really, helped or worked. So she came to Chariot a couple months ago, and There's a quote at the end of the story that I think captures her experience very beautifully. It says, Sandra has gone to therapy, downloaded apps, repeated affirmations that she was safe and strong and loved. But she says it took psilocybin for her to actually feel that and believe it. We get notes the next day, a couple of weeks, even a month down the road from clients who are talking about ways that they are embracing life in new ways that they once thought were unachievable. Whether it's getting out of bed in the morning, which can be really challenging for people, a newfound interest in all sorts of aspects of life. I mean, folks are living lives thriving in ways that before they had been really stuck.
Right. When I hear about these success stories, I always wonder, like, what was it? Like, what was it about taking mushrooms in this guided way that helped rather than, sitting through years of therapy, which I know also helps, some people. What's your theory?
I mean, I think about it a lot. The community, talk about it a lot. I mean, probably a neuroscientist could explain what they think happens in the brain in a way that I can't articulate or feel comfortable because I just don't know that that's even true. I think there's some sort of rewiring. I feel like it allows for new neural connections that happen. It kind of clears the junk out. There's a physiological component, but I think it really just sort of allows oneself to do and believe the things that they know deep down, but aren't able to actually believe. I don't know if that makes sense. It's hard to explain. I don't want to hypothesize, or I don't know exactly why. I'll just be honest. I mean, but it works. And it works for me. It is not going to work for everybody. There are folks who come in and for many reasons, maybe it's not the experience that they had hoped for. But that's the exception, not the rule. I mean, the overwhelming majority of people are having very positive experiences.
Yeah. So let's talk about these sessions, because an individual session is anywhere from $600 to a few $1,000s. And right now, no health insurance is covering it. So it must have been kind of a bummer for those who went in and they were just like, aw. But why is it so expensive? Because I'm pretty sure I could buy shrooms for less than $20.
Yeah, you probably could. Yeah, so it's not the mushrooms that make it expensive. Those are the cheapest part of the whole equation or cost. It's a couple of things that make it so expensive. It's a lot of hours, first off. So you're working with a facilitator for 20 plus hours. So that's a lot of hours working with one individual. You also have the service center, which is the physical location that you have to do the journey at, which is the center that we run. Mm-hmm. Everybody in this new industry has very high licensing fees. All of the security, all of the rule following, all make this a very expensive process. There's not a lot of folks with that sort of disposable income, and I get that. And we're not trying to make it expensive, and we're trying to find ways to make it more affordable.
What is the industry doing to address the inaccessibility? Because at a certain point, you're just like, well, who are the people who can afford this?
Yeah. So I can speak to kind of how we work at Chariot, which is on a sliding scale for everybody. So we try to find out sort of what a client's budget is, whether it's $0 or a few $1,000s, and work with that number. Mm-hmm. Most sessions are not at the full price. Most are at significantly less than sort of the upper end of what we would charge somebody that can't afford it. And so the folks that can pay for a couple $1,000s help us see more clients who have, less means and are, less disposable money. This is one solution right now that we're implementing. We do a number of no cost sessions every month for folks.
Oh, really? That's so cool.
Yeah. And I mean, without any sort of insurance to support us or any subsidization anywhere, this is just a very expensive thing right now.
Well, what do you think the future of mushroom therapy is going to look like? Do you think health insurance is ever going to cover it?
I hope so. I think there'll probably be some progressive companies that maybe add it to their benefits as a sort of add-on supplementary benefit for their employees. That will likely happen first. I don't know if that's at a state level, or Oregon healthcare could potentially add it on as a part of care that they're able to offer. But with the federal healthcare operators, it's challenging because it's still a controlled substance.
Yeah, so that would have to change in order, I think, because it would be so tricky for health insurance is to be like, okay, only in Oregon,
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But as more and more states come on board with similar models, I think it won't be long before it's a very normal part of healthcare in this country and around the world.
Well, thank you, Courtney. I appreciate you taking the time to talk us through what you do, and thank you for the work that you do.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
That's all for today here on CityCast Portland. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with a friend, rate or leave us a review. It really does help us out. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you at Slim's.